One of the things that I value most in my life is wisdom. I go out, I look for it, I pursue it. When people have wisdom and they're willing to share it with me, man, do I take that seriously, and do I have a high level of gratitude for them doing so. Dave Blanchard has been around for a while. He's had a lot of experience in wealth development, and he has an extraordinary amount of wisdom in the way that he approaches things. You're going to look at this next interview with Dave Blanchard, and you're going to see how this wisdom will apply to you and how you can put it out into the world, put it on the ground, and make it work for you. He's had a phenomenal impact on me, and now I'm happy to share it with you. Dave, I'm a big fan and really excited to have this interview, so thank you for taking the time to sit with us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So let's talk about your background and kind of how you got involved in the kind of work you do today.
Okay. Short version.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that short. We got
After
time.
school, started the financial services business. And this is part of our discussion about wealth creation.
Yeah.
If I'm going to sell insurance, I'm going to sell it to people who need a lot of it.
Right? Makes sense, right?
So I specialize with doctors.
Right?
Pretty soon, doctors needed a whole lot more than insurance. They needed to set up and practice. They needed leasehold improvements. They needed staff. They needed them trained. They needed practice management.
Right.
And within a few years, it was the largest practice management consulting firm south of Los Angeles and San Diego. And I'm investing in real estate privately because I figure that's a pretty good investment, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden, the doctors are saying, I heard about that apartment you did. Can I get involved in the next one? So we started having more of them get involved in the real estate, and pretty soon I sold off the practice, and we were just developing real estate.
Right.
Then 1986 came, Tax Reform Act. By 1989,
Right.
we were building our last $5.4 million project. We sold for $5.3 million.
Not a good business deal.
Didn't work really well.
Yeah.
You know, $1 million down, $1 million second. Within 3 years, the market had dropped even lower. They just reneged on the loan. That fell apart.
Wow.
I was the corporate guarantor of all the lines of credit.
Ooh.
Ooh, yeah,
Yeah.
$1 million.
Wow.
And so when the company wasn't able to pay that,
Right.
they visited me.
Yeah.
And so I would spend the next 10 years paying it back.
Wow.
And that really was formative. Now, I could have filed bankruptcy.
I was just
And
about to ask.
I don't want to say to someone, don't, because sometimes it's really the right thing to do. But I had some lessons to learn. So I learned them very thoroughly. And during that process, I had a chance to read Og Mandino's book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. And it's like putting on an old shoe. You know, it's really comfortable.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, he's got the same teacher. He's got the same teacher. So that developed into meeting the Mandino family. Next thing you know, I'm writing the feature film script for one of Og Mandino's books.
Wow.
And in January of 2000, Betty calls me. I'm shooting some commercials for CNBC in New York. We get off early and we take the crew down to get into the Lion King. We're standing in the cancellation line.
Right.
January 2000. The world hasn't come to an end. And Betty called me. And she said, Dave, the rights to The Greatest Salesman in the World are not being renewed. Would you be interested? Of course, I said, this is a rhetorical question, right? She said, no, I'm very serious. I said, okay. So over the next hour, we talked with the publisher in Florida, her attorney in New York, our attorney in Los Angeles, and by the time we got done, we'd worked out the framework for me to come home, leave the film business, and take over the Og Mandino brand name, the family jewel, the greatest salesman in the world, the 10 Scrolls, and begin to build a training company. And good news for everyone, we're scripting the Netflix series.
Oh, really?
Yes, which is very exciting. 10-part episode of The Greatest Salesman in the World. To make a movie out of that is really hard to do.
Yeah.
So we're going to do it in episodes.
I love it.
So we're very excited about that. So everything's finally, after 20 years, is when someone says, you know, gosh, I wish I was in your shoes. And I'm not sure you want to walk that path. If you do, that's cool, because show you how to do that.
Yeah, there's the old adage. Some people think they're born on third base and think they hit a triple.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't know what it was to strike out at bat a few times. And
Merrill Osmond said that to me once. He said, someone says, gosh, I wish I had your success. And I said, yeah, it was an overnight 16-year success.
so fill in one gap for me.
Okay.
Here you were, real estate crashed. You had a guaranteed a loan you had to pay off that you decided that you're going to feel the pain of paying it off just to learn something as compared to bankrupting. And next thing I know, you're in the film business. So Where's the gap? What happened in there?
Real estate business.
Yeah.
I want to do something meaningful.
Yeah.
So I produced a music video on teenage drinking and driving.
Wow. Okay.
And the next thing you know, it's on television and it's in 30,000 schools. I mean, oh, that was fun. Let's do another one.
Yeah.
So we did one on acquaintance rape. That wasn't quite as popular because we
Yeah.
did it specialized on college campuses. But when we were doing the premiere of that film, we're right in the middle of the show, and we could hear a boy just burst into tears. And the therapist grabbed me and said, "Follow me." And we went outside. He worked his way out of the audience and outside, and it turned out he'd been a victim of child abuse when he was 12.
Oh, wow.
And they prosecuted the man. He'd gone to jail for it. But his father said to him, "Okay, it's done. We're not going to talk about it ever again."
Wow.
Until that moment in time.
Wow. Okay.
I left that and I said, we have got to do the quintessential film on child abuse prevention. So a buddy of mine put in $265,000. I put in $265,000, and we hired Manuel Lewis Webster,
Yep.
Tiffany Brissett from Small Wonder. That was a great show back then, Little
Right.
Robot Girl.
I remember.
Gordon Jump, WKRP in Cincinnati, and we did the quintessential series on emotional, physical, and sexual child abuse. And the U.S. military bought one for every Department of Defense school worldwide,
Wow.
every family services unit worldwide, and another 40,000 schools in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, United States bought it.
Wow.
Well, that was all happening before the world fell apart. And I'm going, I kind of like making films. So when I'm going to be paying back $1 million in debt, and I really am, we were poorer than church mice. It was scary.
Yeah.
We sold our favorite eagle statue and fruitwood inlaid grandfather clock out of the back of the truck to the guy buying our new house, or our old house, excuse me. And as we were moving, and here we were just about penniless, and so I said, I'm going to become a writer and director. Not just as an avocation, I'm going to actually do this, right?
Yeah, it's like a sure thing.
Well, I was able to do it before I was paying for it, so I got to write and direct it.
Yeah.
My writing and directing debut was the first one I ever did. It's one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
And so I started writing, and a good friend, Rick Larson, who's now the president of Sutherland Institute, he was running a production facility. He called me one day, and he said, "I've been looking for you. I remembered your educational films. I've got a client that needs a script written, and I need a little bit of your flair. Would you consider writing it?" I said,
Sure.
checkbook, 000. Okay, yeah, absolutely. I'll be happy to write it.
Yeah.
So I poured my heart into this script, and that turned into 200 TV commercials,
Wow.
5 feature film scripts,
Wow.
several TV specials, the Goodman Family Special on CBS, etc. Quite a fun career. That's what led to me writing Og Mandino's script for the Christ Commission. That led us to Betty asking if I'd be interested in the movie rights to The Greatest Salesman in the World. That led to building an entire company around those principles.
Right.
And here we are today.
So something very interesting here is that these varying, call them business activities,
Yes.
careers, are not really that related. You're the common denominator, but they don't seem like, hey, there's a particular skill set that you have, and that's what you do for decades of your life. You kind of like did many different things and figured out how to succeed at it. What's the common denominator?
2.
Okay.
1, tremendous passion for it. And when you have passion, you work without counting the cost or tracking the time. You do whatever it takes to figure it out.
Right.
And 2 is just an undying work ethic, which I thank my father for. Greatest gift he gave me.
Was the work
It's a work ethic.
Yeah. So talk to me then, because I know you also write books,
Yes.
right? So what inspired you to write books instead of movie scripts or TV commercials? And what's the content of the books let's maybe go down a couple of them,
Absolutely.
what were you trying to communicate?
Well, first of all, when we started the Og Mandino Leadership Institute, I hired 3 people to write the curriculum, 3 of the top people at the National Speakers Association. The product didn't sell. I think we sold $53,000 worth of product in 3 years, and we're back in financial challenges.
Right.
And I'm a spiritual guy, so I turned to the creator of heaven and earth and said, what's the deal here,
Yeah.
I had to go through 10 years learning how to pay off $1 million in debt to be back here again.
Right.
What do you want? Patrick, it was an interesting moment. I prepared you to write this. My response, what have I got to say? 3 books later, 3 assessments, 2 practicums. I had a little bit to say, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think the lesson in that is for anybody who's watching this, that sometimes because we're living the experience, we minimize the significance of it and the power it could have in inspiring another person to walk a difficult journey. We minimize the value of our own story.
Yeah.
I had.
Wow.
And now it's the subject material for Today I Begin a New Life, which is all about connecting with people and using your mind constructively to get inspired ideas and living in the now in passion-driven action. The Observer's Chair, which is all about healing self-esteem and becoming the very best version of you. And Equanimity, conquering Mount Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Story I've been telling for years about pulling into the parking lot. I kept saying to companies, look, you don't understand. Your people are still in the parking lot. You're talking to them as if they're on the path. Okay, all you do is this and this. They're still stuck in the car.
Right.
You've got to get them out of the car and get them on the path. So the book starts in the parking lot. Let's get out of the parking lot. Let's get into the path and let's go up the mountain and climb Mount Entrepreneur. So those are the 3 books. And then the 4th one on the way,
Yeah.
More
Let's talk about it.
Than, T-H-E-N, more than enough. It's wanting more, but knowing what your enough is so that you're not creating just for you. You reach a point where you're now creating to bless the world.
So expand on that a little bit.
In a nutshell,
Yes.
10% of your income goes to a worthy cause. You live on 90.
Yeah.
What's your enough? As soon as I have this stuff, that's enough. Once you're at a 90-10 and your 90's enough, now you increase your income, you can increase your giving. Because it's been my experience. I have an NSX and a Range Rover and a Malibu boat and a cabin. Wonderful things, right? But not one of them fills the hole in my soul. They're all there to share and bless lives. What fills the hole in my soul is giving.
Yeah.
When you have somebody who's in a tremendous need and you can step up and solve that issue,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I do know.
it just moves your soul.
Yeah.
You want to be in a position to do more and more and more of that. So more than
Yes.
enough.
So the theme of this series is wealth breakthrough. So we want to see people having wealth breakthroughs that they've seen to be stuck. Maybe some of them are on the part of the path of the struggle, where you've been, and I guess at this point the struggles are a blessing, right? Because that's what formed your story that allowed you to share. So in your mind, if somebody says, I have at least the thirst, the desire to want to develop wealth. And in many respects, people will say that it's not so much that I want so much more for myself, but I do want to be in a position to be abundant, to be able to share, to be able to give, what have you. Or some people might say, I do want a better lifestyle. I do want a bigger house. I do want a legacy for our children, whatever the motives might be behind that. What is your feeling at this point, or your position as far as how people need to make a wealth breakthrough, or what the elements of it are?
You said the magic word, desire. But it's understanding the word desire and how it's applied.
Okay.
Because it's the fulcrum on which everything balances. What is that desire? What are you wanting to create? Great discovery. 1992. The educational films stopped selling.
Yeah.
And that was our source of income. That was barely keeping food on the table, right? And all of a sudden we're like destitute. And I've got $1 million life insurance policy. I have $1 million in debt. It doesn't take long to figure out how those two could be related, right? Except for the night I planned it. I didn't go through with it. And the sun comes up and I'm really angry. I long to cry to the God of my youth. But the God of my youth will not hear my cry. I must change my God or change my cry. Want to guess which one had to change?
Do tell.
The cry.
Yeah.
That's the desire. Secret desire and real intention. What is it? Because is the desire to engage in life, to live, to embrace obstacles, learn from them, use them to be more empathetic in teaching others, to connect and serve, to create value everywhere you go and with everyone you meet, and to contribute to the world. Is that the burning desire? Or is the secret burning desire to have life be a little easier and less stressful? What's the desire?
So identifying that's critical.
If you're fantasizing about a Ferrari, nobody need tell you the color of the car, the smell of the interior,
Right.
the road you're driving on. The fantasy unfolds because of the desire. However, if we use our mind differently, which every wealth creator is going to want to know how to do this, there's 5 ways to use it. Like, for an example, mentally rehearsing something,
Right.
the next meeting you're going to have, the next presentation you're going to make, maybe the product you're going to be selling, you're mentally rehearsing, you're playing through it, seeking for inspired ideas, intuitive impressions, creative solutions. That unfolds because you have a desire to create something, to bless a life, to help a person, whatever it might be, whatever that desire is, to create, not to escape, but a desire to create. So it really boils down to desire. It boils down to, am I trying to escape? Am I going to pretend like I care about people until I can get a tropical island where I can move and not have to deal with annoying people anymore? Is that really a desire? Or is my desire really to engage and bless lives and leave a footprint on this planet? Which one really is it?
Right.
Because the evidence shows up when we get clear on the dream, we get clear on where we are, current reality. We look at all the millimeters between here and there, and do we keep going to what it's going to be like when, or do we focus on the next millimeter? That's the evidence of whether that's the desire, escape, or is it create? Is it create?
So talk to me about dreaming. Like, what's the importance of a dream, or do you think that dreaming is too whimsical? It's got to be something more concrete than having a dream?
This is my soapbox.
Go ahead.
This is my soapbox.
Let's go.
I've been practicing this since I was 13.
Okay.
Matter of fact, last year I found the Honda 150 Dream, blue with a red seat. Not the same one. Had 2,700 miles on it for old as it was. That wasn't too bad,
That's
right?
good.
But I found it, and it sits in my garage right now. So every time I pull into my garage or walk to get in my car, I look over there, and it reminds me of the principles of how to create a dream. Not just have it, but actually create the dream. Because that was the first dream I created at 13.
Right.
Was the motorcycle, because I could drive at 14 in Alabama, so that's why I created it.
So talk to me. So when you say you created a dream, so you dreamt of having this particular thing.
I had a desire for it.
Yeah.
I also had a business. I had a paper route. And I'm going to now set goals in my paper route for getting even more customers, collecting my fees even more effectively. I'm going to accomplish this goal, because when I accomplish that goal, I will have the money to fund this dream.
Right.
So you have the dream, then you fund it by setting the goal on the business. So you take a look at it like this. I'm excited to share this with you. You ready?
Yeah.
I have a life.
Yeah.
I have a business.
Right.
I live in my life. I work on my business. Too many people put their life inside their business. No offense, but it's like snorkeling in manure. Got to get them separated.
Right.
You have dreams in your life. You have goals in your business. Okay? Now, requirement. Business needs to be a worthy income-generating vehicle. Something that blesses lives for good.
Right.
Could be anything from chiropractor to a filmmaker that's doing topics like this to bless people's lives. A worthy income-generating vehicle. Critical component of dream creation.
Right.
Now, in my life, I'm going to have dreams. 90-day dreams, 6-month dreams, 1-year dreams, and the dream I'm ashamed to want.
What do you mean by that?
Because when I find that one, I'm going to hear the dialogue about my worthiness. And every time I do that, I discover that dialogue is showing up right now in my dream creation and getting in the way. That's why you find the one that's you're ashamed to want. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Really simple. You take your life, your business. You say, okay, this is very practical, by the way. What's the income for the next 3 months?
You want numbers?
Based on
Okay.
current income. You don't need to share with me,
Okay.
but for the viewer,
Right.
just write down on a piece of paper. Next 3 months, what is your projected income based on current activity?
Right.
Okay. Now, what would happen if we increased that income by 10%? What would that amount be? So you say I've got $10,000 a month in income. That would be $1,000 of a 10% increase, right?
Right.
Next month, 10%, another 1,000. Next month, 1,000, $3,000. Now I have a budget for my first 90-day dream. $3,000. What do I want to do in my life that would be $3,000 that would meet 4 tests? Test 1, I can't stop thinking about it. It ignites my passion and will drive my action. 2, it will encourage me to stretch and grow, to become a better person. 3, I want to share it. Both share it so people can appreciate it, also to inspire others to do likewise. And 4th, to willingly embrace the structure required to create it. That's a worthy dream. But I have a budget for it now, so that's kind of cool. So for $3,000, what could fit that category? Ooh, I'd like to go to X.
Right.
Okay, you got that. I turn to my business. What goals could I set? What activities could I do, like calls, etc.? Especially the things that I've been a little reluctant to do. I've been putting those things off because I'm a little uncomfortable doing that. I want the dream. It's going to drive the action. So I start to look at the things I'll want to do, the goals I'll want to create. Boom, I create the goals, accomplish that, funds my dream. Now I've built my business to that level. Let's give it another 10% increase. Now I've got like $3,400 plus the previous 3.
Right.
Now I got $6,400 for the next dream. What dream you want to do for $6,400? You do it another time. Now I've got like $9,500, $9,600 for the dream. You do it another time, I got like $12,000, $13,000 for that dream. It drives the actions to accomplish the goal to fund the dream. Now I'm working on my business, not in my business,
Right.
on my business to drive it and create the goal.
So it sounds like in large part we're talking about motivation. One could say I'm setting a goal to increase 10%, over the next 3 months.
Yep.
And but that's the extent of it. I have a goal to do 10% more, but there's not the dream that's got some of the attachments to it that you described with the 4 elements that. And suddenly, when you do that, it adds all this motive force, behind the actions.
Yeah, because if it's just, I've got a goal to increase, we're chasing money, and I've never seen the chasing of money provide the sufficient inspiration, breathing of life into us to actually do sustained action over a sustained period of time.
So maybe then finish the sentence. So having a wealth breakthrough is not chasing money. It is what?
Well, you chase money, it runs.
Okay.
You serve people, it flows.
Yeah.
That's why the worthy income generating vehicle. If it's worthy and you work on your business, which is serving people more and more effectively, the goals are accomplished, the money's generated, and it funds a dream.
You've mentored a lot of people to success, helping them get from where they are to where they want to be. And I'm curious as to what some of the experiences you've had in that realm where you saw the lights go on. Like, what was it that somebody suddenly realized that maybe has been stuck, blind spots, or can't figure out why they're stuck, and suddenly, in some way that you work with them, they have their wealth breakthrough. Do you have any particular examples that you could share?
Yes, let me give you a principle
Yes.
and then an example.
Perfect.
I'll just do it like this.
Okay.
This is a shell. I'm in the shell.
Okay.
I know why I went in the shell. I'm in the care and keeping of a pedophile aged 3 through 5. This is the only safe place on the planet.
Right.
And a lot of people are in here. They're in this shell, and creating this success happens out there. But out there, there's a snowstorm and a blizzard, sub-zero weather. We've got to go out there to make a phone call, for an example. And we're naked. Exposed, right?
Yeah.
So we run out there and we pick up the phone. We dial a phone number, and it's like ring, 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 cortisol surge, ring, 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 cortisol surge, voicemail, norepinephrine rush. We leave our message, run back in, and it takes 2 hours to get comfortable again to go out and make another phone call.
Right.
A lot of people who are pursuing wealth, they would love to be wealthy, in fact live in a bit of a cocoon. If there's a breakthrough, it's recognizing, am I in here? Because if I'm in here, success is going to be created out there. And the biggest breakthrough is to discover the dialogue I'm having about myself is robbing me and everyone around me of my greatest gifts. We've done assessments on 150,000 entrepreneurs.
Wow.
That's a lot. I've coached personally with 7,000 of those. Common. Extremely high levels of empathy and intuition. However, this dialogue talks them out of their own inspiration. Want to have a breakthrough?
Yes.
Get an inspired idea and actually act on it as if it's an urgent assignment and discover it actually was inspired, and don't talk yourself out of it. Most of them have very high levels of practical judgment and common sense, but yet they procrastinate.
True.
True?
True.
I ask them all the time, okay, so you procrastinate. What happens when you reach a deadline and you have to jump in and do it? What do you say? What do you think they say?
They jump in and do it.
Wow, that wasn't so hard. Wow, why did I wait so long?
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah.
For the entrepreneurs, here's a breakthrough for you. Dialogue, self-sabotaging, toxic internal dialogue that's telling you don't have the gifting. It's screaming so loudly that it's louder than the task. Task gets closer, closer, louder, louder, louder. Finally, louder than this, we shut it off. What do? We step into our natural genius. And it's so incredible, even we're surprised.
Do you think most people underestimate themselves?
Enormously. They have no idea. They've been playing delay, jump in, surprise for a lifetime. When they finally start living in their genius, magic starts to happen. When they learn how to practice what we call intrinsic validation, which is stepping into a person's world, really listening, create such a safe place that their wall can come down, then their energy and cooperation floods out. Og Mandino called it the greatest secret of success in all ventures. Being able to create that moment. Now you've got connection with people. You're in your genius, knowing what needs to be done. And you're using your mind to get inspired ideas and intuitive impressions instead of being in fantasy or catastrophe all the time.
Right.
There's the breakthrough. If there's anything I've done for clients that want so badly to get there and can't figure it out, is for them to break through in those three areas. Connection with people, using their mind constructively, and acting. Act now. Og says, my dreams are worthless, my plans are dust, my goals are impossible. Scary line, huh?
Right.
All are of no value unless it's followed by action. Action's living in our genius. He goes on to say that if I want to remove the flutters in my heart, I act without hesitation. For only action reduces the lion of terror to an ant of equanimity. And it looks like this. All of our friends watching this, they're going to watch this, they're going to get all excited about it, and the distance between where they are and where they want to be is going to look like this. All I got to do is jump. Okay, that's not too bad. Then the next day they go to do it, and it looks like this. So we go read another book, then we go back to reality. Then we go to a seminar, we go back to reality. We hire a coach,
Right.
go back to reality. This is reality, and creation occurs here.
Yeah.
We must jump without hesitation. If you're doing something worthy, you'll get more and more comfortable with the jumping. But we want to be in action. You don't get to shortcut this process. Well, when I feel more comfortable, I'll do it. You won't feel comfortable till you do it.
Right.
I want more confidence. You won't have confidence until you do it. I want to mitigate the fear. The fear won't be relieved until you do it. So those are the three breakthroughs. It's like, gosh, could it be easier? Couldn't you give me a pill? A book to read or something to watch? No. Learn how to connect with people and love them.
Right.
Step into the world and love them. Discipline yourself to use your mind constructively to get inspired ideas that ignite passion that will drive your action. That's why the dreaming's so critical. We'll do things in our business we haven't been doing because we have a dream that's lighting us up. We're willing to do this to get this.
In your view, then, what role does manifestation play in all this? Like, the way that people talk about law of attraction, manifestation, does that factor into the dynamics of what you're talking about?
When I hear the word manifestation of the law of attraction, I think of two things. One, that when we're actually in action, passion-driven because we have an inspired idea, something magical does happen. People are put on our path that we can serve and who can serve us. It speeds up creations to its fastest possible pace. But it doesn't just happen, it is intentionally created. In terms of the law of attraction, it's a physiological reality. I have mirror neurons, you have mirror neurons. Overabundance of them in our amygdala, our fight or flight center, and our limbic brain. Now, I meet you, and my mirror neurons pick up the tone and tenor of your voice, your facial expressions from the 200 different sets of muscles, your posture, sends a signal to my brain, molecules to my body. Those molecules connect to the cells through sugar fibers, communicate a message. It's an energy message because the law of attraction is energy, but it's physiological. Now, I'm either feeling drawn to or a little repelled by based on what my mirror neurons are saying to me. Interesting piece, right?
Yes.
Now imagine, I walk in to talk to you, and all the way here I've been thinking about how could I sell them? I need the commission. I want to do this. I want to close on that. And then I step into the meeting. I try to act like I care about you. You probably won't be trained well enough, even an FBI profiler wouldn't be, just in all fairness, to pick up the facial expressions on my face that are leaking out because of my previous thought process. But your mirror neurons do. It's that subtle.
Wow.
And they send a signal to your brain, molecules to your body, and you're feeling a little uncomfortable with me, and you don't even know why, because all of that occurred before you had a conscious thought. It's that fast.
Yeah.
We can't fake it till we make it.
Yeah.
So if we're going to practice a law of attraction, we actually have to care about people because it's discernible. It's discernible. So we show up very conscious. Og Mandino said it this way: how will I handle this? One way. Silently and to myself, I'll say, I love you. I'll unwrinkle my brow, bring a smile to my lips, and echo in my voice. And who is there who will not buy my goods when his heart feels my love? That was 1967. Mirror neurons were discovered in 1992.
Wow.
But he's really speaking poetically to that very process of being comfortable with a person. There's a reason for that, because our thoughts do leak out on our face and in the tone and tenor of our voice and in our posture. You can't fake your thought processes. So if we want to have a breakthrough, we actually want to start caring about the people. That's why when we say we're going to chase money, well, and act like I care, I really care about you, but I really need the money because I want a new Porsche,
Right.
It doesn't work that way. I actually have to care about you, work on my business, which is service, 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 accomplish the goal. I can fund the dream, and it's worthy of it.
Yeah.
Because everything I did touched a life for good. The money's clean. That's great money.
That's an interesting distinction. It struck me when you said the money's clean. It's great money. What's not great money?
That's a really scary topic.
Well, we're not here to be safe.
Well, my first go around at wealth, I was still trying to fill a hole in my soul from my childhood. And I'm not going to do the list of belongings, but they were extraordinary. You go to Ferrari, ski lodges, beautiful home, full-time housekeeper, gardener, 40-foot custom Bluebird home. I could go through all that kind of stuff and just say, yeah, Rolex watches. Nothing filled the hole in my soul. I still remember driving off of Mount Helix, coming to a stop sign, and going, oh my goodness, I didn't put on my Rolex. Now what do? Do I continue and be on time for the meeting, or do I go home and get my watch? What do you think I did?
You went home and got your watch.
I went home and got my watch because I was my watch. The money I was earning was to try to fill the hole in my soul. Is that dirty as in like mafia dirty? No. But it wasn't for a worthy purpose. Now, I've got nice things. But if I had to sell them all, I'm not attached to them. You want to be careful that in the process of wealth creation, we understand what real wealth is, because I'll share with you the breakthrough.
Go ahead.
Case in point, happens to me all the time. Client calls me last December. They went from a couple $100,000 a year to $750,000 a year. Pretty good growth for a couple years, right?
Sure.
Right? They committed to put 10% of that aside to give to worthy causes. They lived on the difference. It funded everything from retirement, everything on. They're living on the 10. Their children are in a Christmas play at the community theater. So they go to watch, obviously. During the intermission, they're talking to the folks around there in the audience and discovered, didn't know this community theater invites all the children from that community to participate. One's in wheelchairs, autistic children, learning disabilities. They all have something to do to make that Christmas play happen. She was so emotionally moved by that, she turned to her husband as they sat back down and said, "How much is left in our giving fund?" And he said, $10,000. He knew exactly where she was headed. He said, "I agree." The next day they call this director. "We were at the play last night, and we learned something about your theater. And we were so impressed. We've made a decision. We're sending you a check for $10,000. Now, they're sharing this with me privately. I'm not mentioning any names to keep it that way. And they weren't doing it to brag. They were doing it to share with me because it was such a tender moment.
Right.
They said this woman broke into tears and was bawling. And finally, all she could say was, "You have no idea. You have no idea." She said, "It's the most important thing we've ever done in our lives."
Wow.
What do you think they're doing this Christmas?
Yeah, give me more.
Yeah. And they've upped the percentage.
Wow.
That's how you want to live. It's a neighbor. And I talked to his personal assistant, and he says, "I have to tell you something." Jason called me and said, "I want you to buy this number of pairs of boots and meet me down at Pioneer Park. That's where the homeless people in Salt Lake live." And they get down there, and he says, "Okay, these are size 10. Those go to Bill. These are 8s. Those are Mary's." This neighbor, I won't mention the company, but he sold it for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
And he's buying boots for the homeless people in Pioneer Park. One of many, many, many things he does in the year. One of the most gracious, giving, kind people. That's when it gets joyful. Now he lives in a 50,000 square foot home, indoor pool, outdoor pool, vineyard, bought the cul-de-sac and put up a gate. I mean, it's 100 acres.
Yeah.
He is one of the most amazing human beings I have ever met.
But to use your term from earlier, he's not his Rolex.
Yeah, he's not stuff.
Yeah. Doesn't
He's
mean you
all
can't
about-
have stuff.
Well, he has great stuff.
Yeah.
He owns a diving company in Hawaii, for heaven's sakes. I mean, he's very, very wealthy. But if you spent time with him, just out in public, you would never know it. He's just so friendly and kind and outgoing and helpful and committed to changing the world.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one more.
Go ahead.
I'm with a friend down in San Diego. He just sold his company, netted $110 million. Not bad, right?
Not bad.
It's okay. Everybody says, "Wow, I could go get this, this, and this." And I asked him, I said, "What are you doing with the money?" I was close enough to ask him that.
Yeah.
He said, "Well, I took $10 million and put away in investments because at a 5% return, that will replace my salary from the business." Okay? What are you doing with the other $100 million? He said, "I'm going to change the world." Now I know since then to now, that's all he's been doing is changing the world. His enough was $10 million because it produced the income. He said, "I still answer the door for the pizza guy. I still do the dishes with my wife."
Right.
Now he says, "I have bought a couple nicer suits." But there's nothing in his life that changed because he already had enough.
Right.
He was already a successful executive at the company that was sold. He wasn't waiting to get rich to go travel the world. And have you ever heard those people say, "I just love to travel the beaches of the world"?
Yeah.
You do that for like 2 or 3 weeks, and it's like, now what?
Yeah.
Like I'm bored, you know. Let's go
It
do
sounds
something
pretty boring.
good. Let's
Yeah.
go create something.
Yeah. So there's these two profiles really, and maybe you can describe not the difference on the surface, but the difference of what's underneath, where you have the person like you just described, wealthy, cashes out for large sums of money, and they have such a sense of fulfillment that's now, how can I use my fortune, which almost sounds like they would even say my fortune, but this fortune, to go change something in the world and make an impact in that way. And if you look at the wealthiest people, you look at Gates and the Gates Foundation and Buffett putting his fortune in, et cetera. There seems to be that genre, if you will, of super wealthy people. Then you have another genre of people who actually did create big wealth. Mm-hmm. But they still seem like they're filling a hole. They're buying bigger and bigger yachts. They're going through divorce after divorce. They're somehow still can't get to a point where they have the gift of fulfillment in their life.
Isn't it tragic?
It's tragic. So where did they go wrong? They're able to create the wealth. I mean, in a material sense, they did it, and yet it's still, to them on that personal level, doesn't make them happy.
Having been there, smaller scale, but having been there with several $1 million, I know why I had the hole. And it's not unusual that something like that created it. So I can't have any judgment for someone who's trying to buy stuff to fill a hole. You just want to give them a big hug, tell them it's okay, and you're going to pursue that till you die. And when you die on your deathbed, it's like, I still feel this emptiness. The difference in the first category, they're not doing this for fulfillment. They were already fulfilled. They see this as a stewardship responsibility. Right. I'm a steward over these funds. I have all my needs met. Now what can I do to change this world? It's just a different view. Right. It's no longer about them. That's a beautiful place. That just takes healing.
Yeah.
And some people have been able to create wealth without ever healing. And that's really sad.
So they still had the attributes of being able to generate and create wealth. They had those attributes. So there's some virtues there. But unfortunately, there's also a hole that debilitates.
They have wealth, but they're not wealthy.
Yeah. So given that distinction, how would you describe being wealthy?
Reason for the book, more than enough. I think we're supposed to want more. Our clay. We have a tendency to want someone else's clay, their life, their body, their hair, their car, their house. We take our clay, our current circumstances. And I think this is important for your listeners because some people don't like their clay. You don't understand, Dave. I don't like this. I got this happening, this happening, this happening. I go, well, but that's your clay. And it's given to us uniquely to prepare us for our life. So we choose our clay. I choose my clay, my circumstances. Now I begin the process of creating the most I can with what I have. But if I had $10 million, I don't have $10 million, so that's not an option. What do I have? What can I create with what I have? Because once we start to magnify the clay we've been given, here's a principle. We're given more clay. There's not a power in the universe that'll give you more of something you don't want. We're supposed to want more of our clay. So we start building more and more and more. We're given more and more clay. It's so essential in this build that we define what is our enough. If we know that going into the build, it's not in concrete, but having an idea, that's a big enough house, that's a nice enough car, that's good enough vacations, this is enough for retirement. Once we know our enough, then we can begin the process of giving more than the 10%. The 10's critical from the beginning, because if we don't give 10 from the beginning, we'll never give because we'll never have enough to give. Right. So we want to be giving that 10 because there is fulfillment in that 10. It just gets sweeter with more. So we build more to enough, put more in the giving pile, and we can have even greater levels of joy in our giving. But we're already fulfilled. That's the secret. We're already fulfilled. If we're looking for wealth to solve our feelings about ourselves so we'll be happy, it'll never make us happy.
Yeah, I've heard money's just an amplifier. So whatever you got, it's going to amplify.
If you're a troubled person, you're going to be even more troubled.
Yeah.
If you're a good person, you're going to be an even better person. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so looking at this, I guess I'll call it this phase of your life, you know, with the new book and these themes that you're sharing with the world. How are you feeling about things? I mean, there's more wealth in the world than ever. Looks like it's going to increase and accelerate. Do you feel like we're moving in a good direction?
That is really a loaded question. Love capitalism. So I love competition. I think we ought to put it into the healthcare system a little bit more effectively.
You
I
and me
think that
both.
would help us, yeah.
I even got ideas around that.
Well, not a bad idea, right? I'm a little concerned that some of the wealth accumulation has a few too many people trying to fill a hole in their soul. I'm a little concerned about that. For those who are getting ready to build, I would say I'm most excited for them. Because if they could build differently, they could be fulfilled in the journey, joy in the journey of building.
Right.
Because the joy is in the creation of the dream, it's not the destination. We ought to go off on that for a minute because
Please.
intentional creators create through dreams. Here's the dream, they create through, they're on the next one, the next one, the next one. And when they're done doing their own, they start doing it for others, right? So they fall in love with the very process of getting an inspired idea, taking on a challenge, correcting it, building something that wasn't there before. They love the process of creation. Too many of the other people we're talking about are destination driven. When I get to this point, but that's never enough. So I get to this point. We're always waiting to be happy when we get somewhere. To this new generation that we're talking to, okay, you want a breakthrough? Let's have some foundational principles in place. Let's love people. Let's use our mind constructively. Let's live present in the now, using our natural genius. And let's take the clay we've been given and let's create as much as we can. Let's not be in comparative reality. We're not in competition with anyone. We're becoming the best version of ourselves, right?
Yes.
And we're using our funds, 10% of it, to serve. And when we have enough to meet our needs with the 90, we give more. And I think it's something that can't be compulsory.
No.
Now, this is going to be revelatory. I don't think you can tax it out of me.
No.
I'll give you an example. You say, well, the wealthy need to be taxed more. You can take all their incentive away for doing it in the first place.
That's right.
That doesn't work. They'll just stop doing it. So we don't want to be in that position. That's like those who want to build wealth who've got debt. So, well, first I got to pay off my debt. For everybody watching this that wants to be involved in wealth creation who's got debt, don't focus on paying off your debt. Focus on creating something you don't have and have some joy from it, a little bit more and a little bit more. You'll get your debt paid off.
Yeah.
But if your focus is debt, getting out of that hole back to even is not a motivation for creation.
Back to your own personal story, you had $1 million in debt, and you went off and did something very creative and very new that you seemed to enjoy, which got the debt paid.
The debt got paid, and I had a blast making films.
As compared to feeling like you're slaving away and lamenting about how the world's not fair.
Patrick, I was working 16-hour days, and no exaggeration, almost 6 days a week and for almost 10 years.
Wow.
And there is no exaggeration, because I was writing a film, editing a film, and shooting a film all at the same time. You got to do 200 of them over that period of time. That's really complex work.
Yeah.
Why would you work like that? I remember Bill Bennett's Book of Virtues. I wrote and directed the infomercial for PBS. And I kept telling the New York producers, let's not shoot this stuff up at the lake with the great big lights and imitating the sun. Let's go shoot the testimonials first.
Yeah.
Because they're going to tell us so much, then let's write around the testimonials. They made us shoot that first. So we shot it first. Then we went and shot the testimonials. Not one foot of that footage shot up at the lake made it into the infomercial. But here's what happened. It got delayed so far, and PBS has got a drop-dead date, which means I had to edit for 36 hours. That's 3 editors, 12 hours apiece. I slept for an hour and a half, got a shower, did it for another 36, slept and took a shower and did it for another 36.
Wow.
I still haven't recovered.
I don't
But
doubt
how
it.
can you do that? If it's just boring, mundane, repetitive, burdensome work. It was my baby. It was my vision. My passion was ignited. I was executing on passion. We wanted this thing to be perfect. Yeah, that's what the dream creates.
I think implied in a lot of what you're saying, and tell me if this is accurate, but you have a premise that everybody has an inherent genius. It's not just some lucky few.
I don't think we've done an assessment yet where we didn't have natural genius. We just have a proclivity, a natural negative tendency to look at what's wrong. Well, we'll want to see what's wrong because it's probably a lot of noise keeping us from accessing our genius. But I want to get people in their genius because once they start playing around with that, they start to find out who they really are. And when they find out who they really are, there's a peace that can come to them, a fulfillment that could start to come to them, and they start to get excited about getting an inspired idea, acting on it as if it's an urgent assignment, proving that it actually was inspired, feeling like they're in partnership with the universe in the creation of whatever they're doing, and you can hardly sleep at night.
And that's safe to say, discovering your own genius is a critical aspect of having a wealth breakthrough.
Well, I'll give you the objective.
Okay.
And I'm going to quote Dr. Robert Hartman from the Hartman Institute. The objective is to be real, genuine, and authentic, without the need to impress, pretend, feel ashamed, or fear. That's the most difficult task on our mortal existence and the highest level of maturity.
Wow. Repeat it again then.
To be real, genuine, and authentic. Real means to develop relationships with people. Genuine, root word, genus, genius. The root word of genius is genius. It's to fully embrace your natural genius and bring it to the service of another person. You don't embrace genius and say, look how brilliant I am. No. You shut off the noise so you can bring it and serve totally available. Can you imagine what you could do living in your genius in the service of another person and working on your business and creating those goals, right? So we live in our genius, being genuine, authentic, anthosectic, our true self. The noise, that self-sabotaging dialogue, that if I said half the things to you that you say to yourself, could we still be friends, that dialogue?
Right.
That's not our true self. It might be our dominant voice, but it's not our true self. That's where we get in our genius so we could start to hear our true voice, our real self. Then we can be real because we'll start creating relationships we're comfortable to. We'll be genuine. We'll jump in. We'll get the task done. We'll bring our genius. And we'll be authentic, anthosectic, our true selves. Can you feel the peace from that? No need to impress, pretend, feel ashamed, or fear. Most difficult task in our mortal existence and the highest level of maturity. Funny story. I'm a car guy. Okay, I'm a car guy. 2004, I've got a red NSX with a tan interior, 96. I got a 97 now, but I had a 96 then. I'm driving down the street, and these two 16-year-old guys go. And I'm going, do I really want to be driving a car the 16-year-old guys go? And I thought, am I becoming my stuff again? Don't know. Let's find out. We had these two buildings downtown. They were historical buildings, and one of them had a garage in the back. So I parked the car in the garage and covered it, locked the garage, and left it there for 9 months.
Wow.
And intentionally drove a Honda Civic with a cracked windshield. I just want to see if I could. I could. That's fine. When I got the car out, the battery was dead. That caused all kinds of problems because all the emission sensors were dead too, and then it was hard to get a emission test passed, etc. Anyway, bottom line was, are we our stuff? Are we trying to find happiness elsewhere? Or are we focusing on just being real? The objective, real, genuine, authentic, without the need to impress, which is to try to make a big deal of what we have, pretend, act like we have something we don't have, feel shame, the sham, that covering, have that wet blanket over the flame that burns inside of us, or fear. To experience fear, false evidence appearing real. Are we going to let fear crush us? Let's just be real, genuine, and authentic. Then we start creating wealth. Then we can use that money to create wonderful things for our family. I got a neighbor who takes 42 family members on a 2-week first-class vacation every year. You could put the math to that, right?
Yeah.
That's part of his enough. Some people might say, well, why doesn't he give that to an orphanage? If you saw his kids and his grandkids and what he's created in that family, every penny is worth it. It's incredible what he's created.
Right.
An amazing human being, an amazing family. Yeah.
That's so great. Can you remember the first dream that you created?
Oh, yeah. Now, a couple years ago, my father passed away. And I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I was missing him. And I had this impression to go look on KSL.com. It's the local online classified ads. So I went in the bathroom, didn't want to wake up my wife, and I plug it in. And the very first thing that pops up is a 1966 Honda Dream, blue with a red seat.
And that's a motorcycle, like
It's
a
a
small,
motorcycle.
like a mini bike, basically.
It's
or-
a big, it's,
That's
it's a
one.
motorcycle,
Okay.
150 cc's.
Sure.
Here's the dream. I'm 13. I'm almost ready to turn 14. In Alabama, you can drive a motorcycle at 14. I've got a paper route, and it's really difficult to deliver the number of papers I'm taking on a bicycle. On Sunday, my mother's driving us around the Volkswagen Bug. You imagine the top back. I'm standing up delivering the papers like this. And she wanted to have the freedom on Sunday morning because that was like a 5 o'clock in the morning thing. So I have this worthy dream
Right.
to create this motorcycle. It's $280. My father said, if you'll pay for half of it, I'll pay the other half. So I need to raise $140. So am I collecting, and I'm getting new customers, and I'm driving that business to get that $140, and I got it now. My father finds the motorcycle. My favorite memory of my dad is him driving down the street and pulling into my driveway with that motorcycle. It's interesting that that was the motorcycle for sale on the newspaper at KSL.com. So I look all night for a picture of me at 14 sitting on this motorcycle. I find it. I send it to the guy and say, I want this. I'll pay you this much. And he wrote back, not only is it yours, I'll deliver it to you.
Right.
So I have sitting in my garage a 1966 Honda 150 Dream, blue with a red seat with 2,702 miles on it that sits there. I don't drive it very often, but it's a reminder every morning when I go out to my car and every night when I pull into that bay of why I believe in dreaming. That was the first one I remembered.
Wow.
Dream, execute, accomplish, fund. Lifetime.
You mentioned 5 ways to use your mind, and I think you gave us one, but what are the other 4?
Well, there are 7 ways, 5 constructive, 2 destructive.
Oh, okay.
Now, 97% of people who are pursuing wealth have the gift to vividly visualize. 98% of those, it's pretty significant, use it destructively to catastrophize, play out worst case scenarios, or to escape to the future to fantasize. 98%. 2% use it constructively. I'd like to switch that by showing people how to use it to get an inspired idea. If there's anyone I can serve, put them on my path and I'll serve them. To mentally rehearse the next event and get an inspired idea. To explore possibilities without making tangible commitments. To problem solve, to plan, to goal set, to identify those dreams. When our mind is in that space, what can I create? How can I create that? How will I serve? That is always answered with an inspired idea. That's what's manifest using vivid visualization. It's not the actual tangible thing. It's the idea that ignites the passion to drive the work to create the tangible thing.
So then if I were to list these, so basically to go down the list of the 5, saying how to use your mind, and actually, it's really interesting that you say there's 5 constructive ways and 2 destructive ways.
Yeah.
How many people are running the destructive modes?
98% of people with the gift of vivid visualization, which is 97% of everybody wanting to create wealth.
Really?
It's huge. And what happens is we go into fantasy, then life shows up differently, and we have this overwhelming physiological reaction. And then we start hating our life because there's nothing about our life that's showing up the way we would like it to. Then we start beating ourselves up, and we start to question our worth and our worthiness and our ability and our beliefs and our character and the value of our contribution. This sequence is killing people. And frankly, the world far too often wants us to believe that if we visualize with enough intention, there's a fantasy fairy that's going to somehow magically manifest it. And so people keep going down that road believing that there's just something they're missing. They must not be doing it with enough intention. It's the wrong road. It's the wrong road. You can't create wealth in fantasy. You get an inspired idea that ignites your passion. You do the work, you'll create.
Right.
That's how you create a dream.
Interesting, yeah, because there is a lot of people that say, that believe in the fantasy fairy, I guess is the way that you put it, right?
Millionaire magic doctrine.
Interesting. And certainly...
Hope nobody blows up my home after saying that.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily categorically wrong, it's incomplete, is I think what you're saying, right? I mean, having, a dream, but then I can remember a long time reading an article saying that you have to also become a dream merchant. You can't just have the dream, but you have to take some action. So that's a fascinating view of it, and I think probably one of the most important elements, as you're describing it, is that you have the motivation, and that drives the work, so that you have the fuel to be able to go out and create, because it takes energy.
Let's distinguish between I'd like to have versus I want to create.
Great distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want that. I want that to happen. Well, it doesn't happen. It gets intentionally created.
Yeah.
If we get that distinction down clear, we're going to have a whole lot less pain and suffering in the wealth creation process. Because too many people want it manifest. Too many people want it to just appear. It doesn't work that way. I could scream about this because there are just too many people who have pursued that easy path, that easy button, and to a person, they're broken, and angry.
Interesting.
I've taken this on as a mission, not to make the person wrong who's teaching manifestation, to help the person who wants to create a dream actually create it. I don't want to speak disparagingly about someone who might teach something that's driving people into fantasy. I just know we need to have a louder voice out there to show people how to actually create a dream. So it's not about dreaming, it's about creating a dream. I recently wrote a song with Randy Karchner. Matter of fact, I'll get a copy of it. Maybe you can share it with the program. But it goes like this: deep in our dreams, where the whispers are real, words softly spoken, voices we feel, calling us higher than we've ever flown, giving us wings to a world yet unknown. Dream, come with me and dream. Putting all the fears behind you, the tears that blind you, the chains that make you scream. Just dream. The burdens of life kill our purpose and peace. Broken and angry, we cry for relief. But dreaming inspires us to reach for the stars, healing our wounds and removing the scars. Dream, come with me and dream. Putting all the fears behind you, the tears that blind you, the chains that make you scream. Come with me and dream. Putting all the tragedy behind you, letting hope and joy remind you to become the one that finds you when you dream. Remember all the pain and fear that has crushed your life and stole your dreams for years? Reach deep down inside your soul. Feel the flame that burns. Declare the truth you know. Dream, come with me and dream. Putting all the fears behind you, the tears that blind you, the chains that make you scream. Come with me and dream. Putting all the tragedy behind you, letting hope and joy remind you to become the one who finds you when you dream. Now, someone might say, are you selling fantasy? No. We've got a lot of people in society so beat down by life circumstances they don't dare dream, because when they have, in a fantastical way, they just got hurt. Our invitation is come and dream. Then let us show you how to actually build a foundation underneath that. David Thoreau said that. If you've got castles in the sky, that's okay. Keep them there. Now build a foundation underneath them. Have a dream, a worthy dream. Now have a worthy income generating vehicle and do the work of working on it, serving the people, and create the revenue and fund the dream.
Well, on that note, sir, a note of with a beautiful tone. So thank you for sharing that. I just want to say that I very much appreciate you, your spirit, your purpose, and the fact that you took your time to sit here and share this with our audience. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's been a privilege.
Don't you just love hearing from people who see the big picture and have a way to share it that inspires? And that's what Dave Blanchard does. So I was really excited that we could have this interview, that we could share it with you, and that wisdom is something that I want you to take to the bank. So thanks for tuning into this interview with Dave Blanchard.